The curtain opened on the Fox Movie Theater in October of 1946 at the corner of Colfax and Elmira. The $100,000 project used a military Quonset hut with an Art Deco-inspired interior and a prominent neon sign. It was the only public movie theater in Aurora when it opened.
We liked movies, and this was our closest movie theater.
I used to sit in the balcony and watch double features. That's correct.
It became, for at least the people of my and the kids of my generation, the gathering place.
This section of Colfax became the center for entertainment, shopping, and local government. But original Aurora declined in the 70s, with popular stores moving to the new Aurora Mall and City Hall relocating further south. The movie theater also declined.
But once they had turned it into a B movie house, it became a different place. It took on a different aura.
During this time, community arts groups were performing around town.
We had 4 or 5 performing groups that used to perform in schools, in recreation centers, wherever we could find a place for them to perform, and they needed a home where they could all perform.
Arts fans enjoyed community groups like the Aurora Civic Orchestra, Aurora Civic Chorus, and Aurora Civic Theater Company. A group of citizens, the Aurora Arts and Humanities Council, started working to find them a home of their own.
It became more and more obvious as we began to grow and began to look at things. This city really had to have a gathering place once again.
In November of 1981, fire ravaged the historic Aurora Fox Theater, and water to fight the fire did still more damage to the theater's interior.
When the owners virtually walked, they didn't have any more use for it. They didn't want to come back in and renovate it.
It was a sad end for the once proud theater, but also its chance for rebirth.
A couple of ladies, Kay Dahlinger and Joyce Howard, organized a group of people to go to City Council and ask the city to purchase the Fox Movie Theater and turn it into an art center or a home for the performing groups that we had at the time.
A fire-ravaged, water-damaged theater wasn't an easy thing to sell to the people who would have to pay for it.
I mean, to go to City Council and try to ask them to buy a Quonset hut, it was like, yeah, right.
But in 1982, Alice Lee Main, Kay Dahlinger, Joyce Howard, and the rest of the Aurora Arts and Humanities Council were able to get some city council members to come see the theater and hear their plan.
It did not have the most pleasant odor even through the masks, and it really would have been pretty hard to envision, if you had never ever been in here before, where we were going to go with this. It was not a pretty sight.
It was really hard to envision what it was going to look like the way it looked like then. But there were enough people that could see what the possibilities were.
The city bought the building in 1983 using city funds. The Citizens Group raised money for the renovation, and with the help of a lot of donated work, the Fox was reborn on March 8, 1985, with many of her Art Deco touches restored. And Aurora once again hosted a very grand opening.
That opening weekend, everybody was so happy and had worked so hard for 3 years that we did it what we thought was like a Hollywood premiere. We had a red carpet, we had doormen, we had 1940s vintage cars that brought people up to the front door.
Local leaders walked the red carpet, including Mayor Dennis Champagne, Councilmember Paul Tower and his wife Kate, and State Representative Molly Markhurt. A public open house followed the next day, and the following weekend, lights came up on the first play.
We opened with a theater production of Harvey, but then after that ran for a couple weekends, then we had the Aurora Symphony perform, the singers, but all of the groups that this was renovated for them to perform had a turn.
In those early community theater days, area residents played the roles, helped build sets, sell tickets, whatever was needed. Some were experienced actors who volunteered their time and talents.
We were doing everything without pay at all. And so the doctors and the secretaries came in, and they were the stage managers, they were the actors, they hammered the scenery and put it together, and it really was communal. It was marvelous energy.
Early shows during the mid to late 80s included the Fantastics.
Right, remember the kind of September when
A Funny Thing Happened on the Way to the Forum, and annual favorite, A Christmas Carol. Everyone involved wanted to see each season become better than the last.
After the first 5 or 6 years, we realized we had to elevate the quality, because you need to attract more of just family and friends that come to see community groups.
Throughout the 90s, productions did become more professional. Some directors and technicians were paid. Some actors were paid. And the Fox produced more regional premieres, including shows such as Our Country's Good in 1992 and The Ice Fishing Play in 1999.
I enjoyed that aspect of it and have been delighted to watch it grow from that kind of communal involvement to this very professional group that works out of here now.
Growth came not only in quality, but in the size and scope of the building itself. In 2003, the Fox expanded, adding much-needed rehearsal and storage space, and even room for set construction.
Previous to that, we had to rent a building down the street to build the scenery, to hold the rehearsals, store the costumes and the props, and then put them on trucks and haul them over here and set them up.
Having set the stage for a more professional theater, leaders with the Fox pushed for more paid professional actors. But that required an agreement with Equity, the Professional Actors Union.
We hammered at Equity for a while, trying to get approval to use Equity actors.
After the turn of the century, the Fox was able to host more guest artists from Equity, and in 2006, the Fox reached a permanent agreement with Equity, giving them access to all of the top local professional actors.
We wouldn't have grown to the professional status in the Equity Theater without increasing support from the city, from the community every year.
One of those Equity actors, and a now familiar face at the Fox, is Aurora resident Jack Casperson.
The first show I did here was Escanaba in the Moonlight 5 years ago, 6 years ago. Instant hit. We extended it 2 weeks, sold out houses.
That Escanaba in the Moonlight was a riot. I love the accents.
It's the hard knock life for us. It's the hard knock life for us.
The summer children's group, Little Foxes, has been part of things since the first year, exposing children to theater and giving them a chance to take center stage.
Thank you, Bomber. Much obliged.
Creating all of this from the ruins of an abandoned theater took vision and a lot of support.
It never would have been born if it wasn't for citizens that wanted live performing arts in Aurora. So Kay Dahlinger, Alice Lee Main, they made it happen.
Without the support of your patrons, the people who continually, year after year, sponsor or give donations or give money, but sponsor events, you can't get along.
So now, the Fox can boast big quality in a small setting.
I love the intimacy of theater. I like being close to the stage. I like to see the faces of the actors.
It's intimate. And I think if you're really ever going to get the flavor of a theater, this is the place where you're going to get it.
I don't want to put down the Denver Center, but there's more soul here.
Perhaps the soul of a once grand movie house, now full of the spirit and energy of live theater in Aurora.